In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the European model, GFS model, and Canadian model, again, where they're all showing major snowstorms and cold air, and I haven't been able to say that a lot this winter. We haven't been showing the radar because WSV3 has been having a really rough time working on my computer. I got a new computer, as you guys heard a couple of days ago. My old one broke, and it's not really working on the new one. And also, I need to get files from my old broken computer, so we don't really have the top bar at the top of the radar, things like that I really need to get over from there. It's a tough process, but we're getting there. Let's take a look at the European model, though. I don't want to bore you guys too much, but that is why it's been a little bit different lately, and I'm trying my best, so hopefully you guys will bear with me. We can see that we have an ongoing snowstorm. I wish we could be taking a look at the radar right now at this one, but this is currently ongoing for a lot of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. A lot of you were like, "Oh, well, you said this is one of the first times the Northeast has had snowstorms, but this, they've been having it all year." Yes, some of the Northeast has been having snowstorms all year, but some of the Northeast has had no snowstorms this year. So there's a big difference depending on where you're talking about. Obviously, northern Maine, northern Vermont, northern New York even have been having plenty of snowfall this winter. It's the more southern areas that have been lacking quite a bit, and those are the areas I'm mostly talking about. And we could see that this is a little bit outdated, but even by the time we're reaching this morning, snowfall was starting up for a lot of these more southern areas. Again, eastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, southern New York, portions of Massachusetts, southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire, and southern Maine, areas that have been lacking in snowfall. See, this is a classic system, 993 right there. And this is basically forcing the cold air southward down the coast because of the motion of the storm. And the more coastal regions are seeing a little bit more warm air heading off the Atlantic. Now, this is going to basically move out just as quickly as it moved in, and we're going to see snowstorm number 2 already starting up. We've talked about how this is going to get going. A lot of Gulf moisture in there, and it's going to be another pretty intense storm. We could see this tail or really just this influx of Gulf energy into this, and it's already seeing snowfall starting up for Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas there. Very heavy snowfall starting out. Thunderstorms to the south. We have a classic cold front and warm front set up with this one, where there is a warm sector in the south here where that Gulf energy is just moving in, as you can see. But we're very cold north of that warm front, and obviously to the west of that cold front, we're seeing cold air as well. And that's why we're seeing snowfall across the Ohio Valley here and for a lot of the plains. As we continue things on, we see this moves up into the northeast and other portions of the Ohio Valley. But the thing is this is the warm front side of things. Obviously, to the east of the low here, we're seeing this warm front here, cold front to the west, but this is going to continue to push northward. So that means some areas are going to start as snowfall and switch back to rainfall, a lot of these areas in here. So front end snowfall, but as you can see, we start to really mix on that eastern end of things here for portions of Pennsylvania, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island as well. And we follow this up with cold air. So for a brief moment, we have very cold air in the east here, also a rising motion as this jet stream heads further eastward, which is usually a very favorable pattern. And we're seeing this kind of kink in the jet stream here. And this is kind of creating drier conditions across the west. This isn't really uh, creating it's kind of a bubble out here, okay? So that's why we're seeing lack of storminess as that jet stream is heading well north and then east of this region here. So very dry, and really just no storminess happening for the most part out there. As you can see, these storms are heading a little bit more over the Rockies as opposed to the West Coast. So we're seeing snowfall out here, but again, completely dodging that West Coast region that has been seeing the storminess all year long. Now that's by Saturday the 28th. And by the time we're taking a look at Sunday the 29th, we see storm number 3 starting up with some snowfall for some of the northern plains, some of the Great Lakes as well here, seeing some of that snowfall. As we just continue this on, we see more and more snowfall starting out here for the interior northeast. And finally, we return to the storminess out west as another storm is starting up. We see potentially some thunderstorm activity in the southeast here for Monday the 30th. And then by Tuesday into Wednesday here, we see more of these storms kind of rising northward in the east here. So we're seeing this type of emotion again with potential severe weather underneath. So we kind of return here on the European model to a very similar pattern to what we had been seeing. Very strong cold front there, a very intense warm front as that low is located right there. This is going to be surging that warm Gulf moist air, and we're going to see a warm sector And here we've talked about this all winter long, and we're going to see this swinging cold front rolling through. That's going to create potential severe weather in this region that we really need to watch for. So we would be definitely paying attention to that. Now, the total precipitation through the next 10 days looks like this. No surprise that a majority of this activity looks to be coming off the Gulf of Mexico into the eastern United States. We saw that during that storminess, and that's really what we look to continue to have over the next 10 days. Anywhere in the whites is practically no precipitation, your grays being a tenth of an inch or less, your greens a tenth of an inch to half an inch, blues half an inch to an inch, your yellows an inch to 2 inches, reds 2 to 5 inches there, and then your browns 5 to 10 inches of precipitation. As we move on to the total snowfall here, we can see that again, this area is seeing a much larger amount than we've seen all winter long in this corridor here. So that is what I'm referring to when I say that the winter is really turning around. A lot of these areas that have not seen much snowfall are finally seeing some. So let's not get greedy here. There is more snow than we've seen all winter expected. It's not necessarily super above average by any means, but it certainly is snowfall, and that's not what we could have said even just weeks ago. Now, anywhere in the grays is a dusting, if anything. Blues 2 to 6 inches of snowfall, purple 6 to 10, pinks 10 to 20 there, and then your pastel blue is going to be 20 to 35 inches plus. We do see plenty of these 1 to 3 foot amounts up here for New England and the Northeast. And then we see plenty of snowfall still expected for the Rockies and the Cascades and Sierra Nevada. There, those regions are all expecting to still see plenty of snowfall. Now, as we move through with the GFS model, we see storm number 1 there, storm number 2. We're not going to see much differences here on the models, through 74 hours or so, or 80 hours there. But as we get to storm 3, we see this is actually a very similar solution. We have, again, snowfall starting out here around the 30th. A little bit more of a northern-based storm as this southeast ridge looks to have a lot more of an influence by this point. As we continue that on, we see pretty persistent storminess. And then this is where things start to differ. Right around Thursday, the 2nd of February, we start to see some snowfall building in through, again, the Ohio Valley into the northeast. Even the mid-Atlantic seeing some at this point. So plenty of snowfall in this corridor here on this model with that storm. We kind of get another one here for the northeast, a little bit more of a mixed bag event there. And then we get kind of this interesting inland runner here, I would say, where there is a cold front here, a warm front here, and this is really, bringing an intense amount of snowfall there on the western end of things. And then we follow this up kind of with what looks to be a trough in the east, in my opinion here. So some more diving cold air here into the east, it appears, according to the GFS model. Now, the Canadian model here, as we continue this on, again, storms number 1 and 2, there isn't much to speak of. It's going to look about the same. We do see a little bit more of a snowy solution here around the 30th. We see more snowfall than the other models that we just saw. And we do get a storm around February 2nd, but this is much further north than what we saw on that GFS model and looks very on par with what we saw in the European model. So much so that look at this compared. This is the Canadian model. I'm going to click on the European model in the same hour now. Look at how similar this looks. I mean, I guess the only difference here is we see storminess out west on our Canadian model, and on the European model, there is none there. But this storm, I'm going to draw it out and see how close this really is. We have a cold front here. Your low is located there, and then a warm front that looks to be here. Let's see how close this is on your Canadian model. I mean, look at that. That is like so close, it's almost just unbelievable. This is 10 days difference. This is 10 days from now, and we're seeing on the same hour, basically, just such a similar solution here. It's insane. Usually, you expect to see major disagreements at 10 days out. We see these are just right on par with each other, and I want to get this GFS model to the same exact hour out of curiosity here. And we could tell that the GFS model is totally in a whole world of its own. Here's the GFS model, here's the Canadian model, here's the European model. So the European model and the Canadian model totally agreeing on like the same exact thing, almost a carbon copy of this storm here. And then that GFS model obviously showing something completely different here, much further south with it, much more cold air. And when in doubt, in a situation like this, usually the European model ends up winning, but we will wait and see what ends up happening. Of course, we will be uploading every day as usual. So be sure to subscribe so you never miss an upload. You can even hit the bell icon and click click all videos so you get daily notifications when we do upload. Also, be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it because that really helps out a lot. And even leave a comment down below with your thoughts because I love hearing from you guys so much. And I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.